movie review. This is Two Women, released in 1960. It's a foreign language movie in Italian with English subtitles, directed by Vittorio De Sica, produced by Carlo Ponte, and it stars Sophia Loren as Sica. Eleonora Brown has a 12-year-old daughter Rosetta, and Jean-Paul Belmondo plays Michel de Libero, and there's a few other minor characters. It's 1944. It's Rome, and the war is turning in favour of the Allies. The bombing in the city is daily. It's a very dangerous place to be. Cesare has a grocery shop, but because of the constant bombardment decides to flee Rome to a village some way out where she's got family members. So we have the setting in the early scenes before she leaves. We get a feel of the war within the city. There's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of broken down, bomb-destroyed buildings. We also catch a brief glimpse of a relationship that Loren has with one Giovanni, who is a married man. It hints that there may be some sort of physical attachment, and we witness one evening where it appears that they have had a physical relationship. But although the man wants a serious relationship, of course he's married, and so it doesn't prevent Cesare from leaving and taking her daughter out of the city, although she is keen on this man. The shots we see as they leave on the train, and shortly after, bombing of the track forces them off the train. They have to walk to the next village, and they run across some militia who are looking for deserters. And here we get a first picture of what type of woman Sica is. She doesn't lack self-confidence. She's a bit of a hothead, and she's unwilling to be mute and subservient, and so she gives as good as she gets. And the militia leave without getting any information. Following this, we witness a bystander on the road is killed by a fighter plane, and this puts into context the fact that we are in a war zone. Cecilia is constantly trying to protect her daughter from any ill gain, and she tries to shield her from the image of the dead person. When they finally arrive at the village, we get another sort of aspect of the movie which De Sica tries to encourage, and that is a sort of jocular and optimistic view of the family, suggesting that it's not all about the harsh reality, that to survive one has to remain human, and humour is something that's used in this scene. However, there's also a lot of political debate about the way the war's going, the politics of fascism versus liberation, and we also get some small talk about the fact that there is food shortages, there's high prices, no schooling, and a tongue-in-cheek chat about Russian women. But as you get a picture here, this is an environment that's quite all-consuming. We then find out that Cesare meets Michelle, who's in the village, and a rapport starts to develop, and it's very believable, comedic and romantic. Michelle is an idealistic comic. He has access to some food, however, his family, and but he is wanted by both German occupiers and fascist collaborators, so he has to tread lightly. Two Mussolini supporters interrupt them, and there's a lot of verbal hostility between the four regarding traitors, regarding fascism, regarding politics in general. Caesarea then decides that she's probably going to go back to Rome, but what happens shortly before she leaves is that Michel is picked out by some German occupiers to find a way out of the valley, as they are under constant attack. And so Michel says his goodbyes to Caesarea, and it's a very emotionally poignant moment, because there is fear that he's never to be seen again. The bombardment from the air continues, and people are unaware really as to whether it's German or American planes. They then come across, as they start to walk back, Caesarea and Rosita. Rosita is a mute-like character. She lacks any sort of self-confidence, lacks any sort of personality. She is very much being babied by Caesarea. So her character is hardly developed at all. Anyway, as they walk down a road, the bombardment continues relentlessly, and Rosita and Caesarea, they escape really to a church, an abandoned church in a small town. And then we witness the most harrowing of scenes when some Moroccan Arab soldiers come in who are working with the fascists, and they go about the business of belittling the two, eventually raping both of them and then leaving them for dead. However, they both survived, and the grimness of the situation becomes very apparent. Caesarea wakes up, and her anger and despair is considerable in equal quantities. She's desperate when she comes across her child, who, although has survived, is almost in a catatonic state, and although they manage to exit the church, the whole episode is extremely traumatic for them both and for you as a viewer. It really sums up the tragedy of war, and the child takes on a sort of radical change now, because she's been bludgeoned, really. She's been stripped of her childhood, and she goes out and leaves her mother and ends up in a bar wearing sort of rather fraternizing clothing. And when her mother actually finds her, it becomes quite evident that there are now two women here, before being one woman and a child, although the woman may well be physically a woman, but emotionally Rosetta is still a child. And that's where we leave this film. The closing shot is of Caesarea nursing Rosetta, as Rosetta changes back to being a small infant, crying, baying almost, as the camera pans out, and then we have the credits. This is a very, very strong movie, and understandably, when you consider that Sophia Loren won the Best Actress nomination for the Oscar for her performance, and this was the first time a Best Acting nomination, either man or woman, had been won by an actor in a foreign language role. So it says so much about the quality of her performance, because prior to this she'd really been a romantic comedy actress with fairly light material. So I'd thoroughly recommend you watch this. It's called Two Women, and it was released in 1960.